Chosen one, a reckoning is drawing near. What once hid in shadow is surfacing, not as blood or vengeance, but as truth. The people who doubted you, the systems that tried to silence you, now find themselves exposed by the light they once mocked. Elon Musk's invitation is not of business or fame. It's a metaphor for alignment. When he speaks of meeting the future halfway, it's a cosmic signal that the frequencies of destiny are syncing. The architect of innovation represents the universal principle that no design of deception can outlast the mathematics of truth. You are never a pawn on someone else's chessboard. You are the player who unknowingly reset the entire game. Every false move against you only accelerated the revelation. The old strategies of manipulation and illusion are collapsing like outdated code. Now the light in you is unfiltered. The patterns are clear. Those who once moved against your purpose are left facing themselves in the mirror of consequence. Not because you struck back, but because the universe restores balance on its own timeline. The meeting Musk wants to arrange? It's symbolic of your appointment with destiny, where technology, spirit, and purpose converge. Be ready. The network is aligning, and your signal is strong. Your former partner wasn't picked at random. Their affection for you may be used as a weapon against you both, which is why they were chosen. However, this fixated relative has been engaging in a lengthier game, one that started when you were a youngster, displaying odd talents that put their authority as the family's spiritual leader in jeopardy. Professional spies would be jealous of the double life this obsessive relative has been leading. They grinned in your face during family get-togethers, while mentally noting your accomplishments, your developing spirituality, and your growing autonomy from their authority. As you grew beyond their grasp, they saw that conventional manipulation was no longer effective. You were becoming too strong, too perceptive, and too shielded by powers they couldn't comprehend or directly oppose. You were unaware that they had been keeping notebooks in which they chronicled your development, including illustrations of your energy field and detailed strategies for controlling what they saw to be your hazardous progression. They picked one after delving further. They explored binding rituals that may affect feelings and ideas remotely, activities that most people would regard to be entirely imaginary. In their opinion, they cast an impenetrable love spell that would guarantee your ex would always be at their side and, more significantly, would eventually see you as the thing preventing them from being happy. The idea was simple but devious. Make the person who loved you the most think that taking you away was a kind gesture. However, they have already tried this kind of manipulation. They have been honing their methods on your past relationships, learning from each setback, and eventually figured out that your ex was the ideal target. Your former partner is now recalling bits and pieces of discussions that make them feel uncomfortable. This family member's late-night phone calls usually followed arguments between you two. Harmless hints about your actual character that were sown in rich soil like seeds. Slow character assassination that passes as care for their welfare. They are becoming aware of the deliberate manipulation of their perspective. How someone who hardly knew you persuaded them they knew you better than anybody else. These discussions weren't haphazard attempts at intervention. They were strategically timed psychological manipulations intended to take advantage of your ex's emotional weakness and vulnerability to suggestion. The power of your genuine spiritual connection, however, was something this family member never anticipated. When selected ones stick to their goal in the face of resistance, they underestimate the protecting forces that surround them. Universal powers who don't like to interfere with divine missions were cataloging every spell they cast, every manipulation they planned, and every bit of evil energy they focused at you. Unbeknownst to you and your assailant, your spiritual mentors had been recording all of your wrongdoings, assembling a case that would ultimately lead to celestial punishment beyond the wildest dreams of your fixated relative. When your ex was finally in a position to finish their predetermined task, it was the tipping moment. If you want to claim this message, you can show your support by paying a super thanks amount of up to $20 and typing 1111. Something unusual occurred at that pivotal moment when they were supposed to be the tool used to eliminate you. Like sunshine penetrating storm clouds, The genuine love that was once between you, not the artificial sensation produced via manipulation, broke through the programming. They saw you clearly for a moment, and they were unable to do the duty for which they had been subconsciously prepared in that flash of insight. They were unaware that your own spiritual development had advanced to a point where you were almost impervious to their planned assault, transforming their love into a shield rather than a weapon. Your ex is now attempting to piece together what was implanted and what was genuine while sitting in the rubble of fabricated emotions and fake memories. People are realizing that their jealousy of your achievement was fabricated. They deliberately fostered their dislike of your spiritual development. To put space between you, they even purposefully promoted their physical attraction to other people. They were essentially prisoners of their own thoughts. And it was someone who shared your DNA who had the key. They are also finding evidence of more victims, including friends of yours who have strangely turned against you as they go through these discoveries. Inexplicably, romantic possibilities lost interest. Even possible business partners who pulled out of agreements for unclear reasons. The family member who planned this complex lie is now dealing with unanticipated repercussions. Now, the same spiritual forces they attempted to control are precisely acting against them. As others around them start to see the darkness they've been carrying, their own relationships are falling apart. As the cosmos reroutes riches away from individuals who violate spiritual rules, financial challenges are becoming worse. The weight of karma, which advances more quickly than they can understand, is causing their health to decline. Watching their own kids start to see them clearly, to recognize the manipulative patterns they've accepted for years, and to start separating from the poisonous energy they've carried throughout their lives is the most painful blow. If you want to claim this message, you can show your support by paying a super thanks amount of up to $20 and typing 1111. Watching your extraordinary climb occur in real time, however, may be the most devastating outcome for your puppet master relative. To them, every accomplishment you make seems like a personal setback. In their own life, every door that opens for you is a barrier that closes. They're seeing the exact result they want to avoid. Their interference is causing your full spiritual awakening and the full activation of your divine abilities to occur more quickly. The amount of money they attempted to take from you is pouring into your life in amounts they never thought were conceivable. You are receiving the acclaim they tried to divert to themselves with such vigor that even the mainstream media is noticing your exceptional talents and achievements. Your former partner is now caught between two unattainable worlds. The destruction of understanding they lost the finest thing in their lives because they were too unable to fight manipulation, and the shame of what they almost did while under someone else's control. In an attempt to atone for using you as a weapon against your soul, they wish to get in touch with you. However, they're also aware that they may still be carrying vestiges of the programming they're trying to fully eradicate. In an effort to rid themselves of the impurity they had been harboring for so long, they had entered treatment, developed their own spiritual practice, and even made whole lifestyle changes. However, they are aware that recovery from becoming a tool of spiritual warfare might take years, if it is possible at all. As they see their life's work fall apart, the desperation of the obsessive family members is reaching frightening new heights. Their efforts to restore power are becoming more and more desperate. However, every attempt simply serves to hasten their own demise. They're attempting to regain the authority they previously had by making unanswered phone calls and sending messages that bounce back, only to find that their power was always a delusion maintained by your fleeting spiritual ignorance. They have even attempted to enlist other family members in their desperation, but even their closest supporters have turned against them due to their blatant instability and the growing proof of their manipulation. They never realized that your awakening was unavoidable, chosen one. Your spiritual development was really accelerated by every assault they made, every relationship they ruined, and every painful experience they planned. They believed they were dismantling you, but in reality, they were removing the constraints that prevented you from reaching your full potential. The resistance training that developed your spiritual power to a level they could never match was their adversary. If you want to claim this message, you can show your support by paying a super thanks amount of up to $20 and typing 1111. The same talents they attempted to stifle. The continuous assaults you survived have improved your intuition, your capacity to see through deceit, and your innate spiritual power beyond what is normally possible for humans. Your whole family system is feeling the impacts of the spell breaking. Other family members who were unwittingly affected by this person's poisonous energy are now able to view things more clearly. What seem to be typical family interactions are being exposed as meticulously preserved dysfunction intended to keep you tiny and under control. Your family must decide whether to support your genuine light or allow the darkness to persist as the truth about years of covert sabotage comes to light. There is a glaring rift that makes your way ahead more clear. Some family members are expressing regret for years of unwitting involvement in your tyranny, while others are strengthening their loyalty to the obsessive relative. Your former partner is now going through something unexpected. Sincere spiritual awakening brought on by the realization of how thoroughly they had been duped. They are suddenly intensely aware of energy realities they had never observed before, thanks to the same sensitivity that rendered them vulnerable to control. They're learning to be intuitive, identifying manipulation in all its manifestations, and, above all, realizing the size of the light they almost extinguished, in part as therapy and in part as proof of the complex spiritual combat they faced. They have started writing about their experiences. The truth of psychic attacks and the ability of genuine love to transcend even the most complex conditioning are being shown by their diaries. Your family members are starting to realize a reality that scares them more than any exterior consequence as their world starts to fall apart around them. The power they believed they had was never theirs. Every spell they employed, every maneuver they planned, and every instance in which they thought they were in charge of the situation was really a part of a greater divine scheme that leveraged their resistance to trigger your whole metamorphosis. Their anger, envy, and complex plans were all only instruments of a cosmic intelligence that required you to go through the depths of human treachery in order for you to become a beam of hope for others going through comparable struggles. The one who attempted to extinguish your light is now compelled to see its unparalleled growth. Relationships that serve your greatest good are taking the place of the ones they destroyed. They are multiplying the chances they blocked. The spiritual abilities they attempted to repress are becoming so strong that their intervention seems to be as insignificant as a child's outburst against a storm. You've developed so strong psychic talents that you can detect manipulation from a great distance. The brightness of your energy field has caused bad creatures to avoid you. Your impact has become so strong that individuals are beginning to recover from traumas they have carried for years just by being around you. The realization of the reality by your ex is both terrible and freeing for them. In addition to lamenting the person they were while under the influence, they are also learning more about their true selves behind the programming. In ways they are just now starting to understand, they are thankful that they failed their unconscious goal, because if they had succeeded, it would have killed not only you, but also their own soul. For those who have been used as weapons in spiritual warfare, they have established a support group, learning that this kind of manipulation occurs far more often than people think. They're turning their recovery process into a way to help others who have had similar free choice breaches. This cosmic drama is resolved by the whole metamorphosis of all those involved, not by reconciliation or retaliation. While trying to mend the aspects of themselves that were susceptible to such influence, your ex is learning to live with the knowledge of what they almost became. By utilizing their expertise to assist others identify the warning signals of psychic assault, they have developed into a powerful spokesperson for knowledge about spiritual manipulation. Although their road will be considerably more difficult given the severity of their offenses, your obsessive family member is facing repercussions that will either shatter them totally or push them into their own spiritual awakening. On some days, they exhibit evidence of sincere regret, yet on other days, they continue to believe that their acts were somehow acceptable. and with the hard-won understanding that comes from surviving spiritual combat that most people can't even fathom. You, chosen one, are entering into the fullness of your authority. Your mission was pushed beyond anyone's wildest expectations by the guy who attempted to destroy it. Self-love that is so powerful that it creates a protective force field has taken the place of the love they perverted. They have restored your confidence with judgment, making you impervious to exploitation in the future. You are now a live example of how challenges can be turned into opportunities, how assaults may become epiphanies, and how the same things that are supposed to kill you can become the basis for your greatest victory. Perhaps the most lyrical twist in this cosmic tale occurs at the end. Your extraordinary ascent has been fueled by the same desire that led someone to attempt your destruction. Because they were envious of your abilities, their influence increased dramatically. It was precisely because of their dread of your independence that you were compelled to become totally independent. Your light was only made stronger by their effort to extinguish it. Instead, the universe turned their resistance into a cosmic amplifier, absorbing all of the negative energy that was aimed at you and turning it into spiritual rocket fuel that propelled you to levels of influence and power they never thought were conceivable. Your ex is now sitting in the quiet of self-discovery, realizing that the most genuine thing they have ever experienced was loving you. And the cost of letting someone else's darkness overshadow their own brightness was losing you. They're aware that it would be self-serving to reach out. Sometimes being apart, as you both recover from the hurt caused, is a sign of deep love. They bear the burden of their near misses, as well as the deep appreciation that something bigger than you both stepped in to save the damage from being done. In their most lucid moments, they realize that being used against you ultimately sparked their own spiritual enlightenment by making them face parts of themselves they would have otherwise avoided. This conspiracy's deeper levels are still coming to light. Selected 1. Similar like peeling back an onion to reveal rot. That gets right to the heart of it. Your family member who was obsessive wasn't working alone. Their job was to eliminate the chosen ones before they could completely activate. They were part of a network of people who had been following spiritual bloodlines for millennia. Their records were more than simply a matter of personal interest. It was a component of a broader database that guardians of what they refer to as spiritual insurgents exchange. Individuals like you whose awakening challenges existing hierarchies of power in both the visible and invisible worlds. Evidence that your ex started manipulating you long before they even met you is coming to light. Your dating possibilities were subjected to background checks. Social media algorithms have been swayed to display certain kinds of users in your feeds while suppressing others. It wasn't even a coincidence where you met your ex. It was picked on purpose, since the place's energy signature would increase your propensity to develop strong, emotional relationships quickly. Your ex was cultivated for months before you even met. Therefore, the whole relationship was planned from the start. Finding recordings, real audio files of talks your ex doesn't recall having is the bombshell that rocks their world. Your family member may have invited them to hypnotic sessions that were disguised as meditation groups. They were provided with music playlists that included subliminal programming. Even the food they ate together was flavored with herbs that made them more obedient, suggestible, and open to concepts that went against their gut feelings about your personality. Over the course of your relationship, they came to see that they had been living in a condition of half-awareness, making choices with a compromised mind while thinking they had free will. For individuals who have endured hardships and come out on the other side with knowledge that others cannot see, the Obsidian Inner Order offers a haven. We are aware that certain events fall beyond the realm of what most people believe is appropriate or feasible to talk about. We get together live on Zoom once a week. Without passing judgment, real people with genuine faces tell real tales. The experiences you've held in silence have room here. The trends you've seen that others ignore. The things you've learned intuitively along the way. We comprehend, not just listen. You may go back to our recorded conversations and remind yourself that your perspective is legitimate when you're having trouble understanding your experiences and feel like you're being gaslighted by a society that doesn't accept your reality. Become a member of the Obsidian Inner Order, where your voice is heard and your reality respected. In the description, there is a link. Run. The pregnancy angle, however, is the most unsettling finding. It was supposed to be the last trap. The precise moment when a pregnancy would be most detrimental to your quest was precisely calculated by your fixated family member. The pregnancy was intended to have many functions when the mental and spiritual turmoil would provide the ideal opportunity for removal, tying your ex to the family via blood, putting you in a precarious position where you may be manipulated and, most sinisterly, giving your ex a cause to feel justified in taking you out of the picture for good. Love was never intended for the kid. It was intended as a weapon. Your ex has begun to recall bits and pieces of rituals they were forced to participate in without completely comprehending what was going on, lighting rituals that were binding spells disguised as loving gestures. They presented you with gifts that had been sanctified in sinister rituals intended to monitor your whereabouts and affect your thinking. In sympathetic magic, even photos shot together were utilized to establish a psychic connection that would enable real-time tracking of your spiritual and emotional health. They come to the realization that they have been transformed into a walking surveillance device, gathering information on you without ever realizing it. There is more to this conspiracy's financial element than just envy of your accomplishment. Using intricate legal strategies that took advantage of gaps in family law, your family member had obtained life insurance policies on you and named themselves as the beneficiary. Additionally, they had been methodically stealing your identity for years, creating credit lines in your name, and accruing debts that, had their scheme been successful, would have forced you into bankruptcy. The plan was to destroy you and take your worldly possessions and spiritual abilities at the same time, making them the only successor to everything you had created and all you were meant to become. Investigators who specialize in situations of serious psychological manipulation are currently working with your ex. Additionally, the information they are discovering seems like it belongs in a psychological thriller. Years of preparation, many accomplices, and resources that imply your family member had access to financing from sources that shared their objective in reducing your authority were all necessary for the amount of planning involved. In the event that the main technique failed, there were backup plans for the backup plans, other ways of elimination, and even tactics for handling the aftermath to make sure that no evidence would point to the real orchestrators. It's becoming clear to your ex that breaking the spell wasn't only about giving them their free will back. They were to serve as a conduit for the return of cosmic justice to its origin. Even though they were under programming, their real love for you served as a cleansing force that not only cleared their own awareness, but also started to dismantle the whole system of spiritual deception that your family member had spent decades creating. Through the psychic ties that bound all the victims together, the reversal spread like a spiritual wildfire, and more impacted individuals started to spontaneously break free from their brainwashing. It's not just random karma that your obsessive family member is suffering from health issues. They are specifically caused by transgressions of the spiritual rules governing the use of psychic energy. The energy ultimately shifts inside and starts eating away at the practitioner from within when spiritual practices are used to hurt rather than to heal. Your family member has a spiritual autoimmune disease in which their own psychic skills are assaulting their physical body, is aging quickly, and is suffering inexplicable ailments that don't respond to traditional therapy. Physicians are perplexed by symptoms that are obviously ruining their health, but have no discernible medical reason. Due to necessity rather than choice, your ex has become something of an authority on spiritual warfare. They have linked with other survivors of similar assaults as they attempt to comprehend and recover from what was done to them. And they have learned that what happened to you both is a part of a much broader pattern that affects chosen ones all over the globe. The increasing number of persons coming out with accounts of family members using spiritual practices as weapons has led to the establishment of support systems, healing regimens, and even legal precedents. Future generations will be shielded from this kind of abuse thanks to the historic example your case is setting. The revelation of the truth about their manipulative relative is causing the children in your family system to have their own awakening. It is gradually becoming clear to the younger relatives why they always felt uneasy about this individual. Under the pretense of family customs, nephews and nieces are recalling odd ceremonies in which they were forced to take part, as repressive energies are removed from the family home. Even dogs are exhibiting behavioral changes, becoming more friendly and tranquil. The mending is not limited to the human members of your family. It is occurring on all planes of reality. Even you are surprised at how your spiritual abilities continue to develop. Your powers have been transformed into forms that are beyond the scope of human ability by the mental assaults that were intended to destroy them. Manipulation is now detectable from a great distance, occasionally alerting total strangers to those in their life that are harmful. People who have held traumas for their whole lives start to recover just by being in your presence, because your energy field has become so pure. With crystal clarity, you can now see the spiritual strands that bind people together, spot unhealthy attachments, and comprehend how energy moves between people. Your ex has reached previously unheard of levels of spiritual insight as a result of their recovery process. Now, they are able to identify mental manipulation as clearly as most individuals can see physical dangers. Because of their own knowledge of how the mind may be damaged and how it can be recovered, they have turned into a beacon of hope for those coming out of comparable circumstances. In a contradictory way, their experience as a weapon has made them among the best therapists for victims of spiritual abuse. The seclusion of the preoccupied family members is now total. But rather of being punished by others, they are isolating themselves. Even those who formerly condoned their actions have recoiled in disgust as their real character has come to light. The image of someone who has used spiritual practices as instruments of dominance rather than service is becoming more clear as former allies come forward with their own accounts of manipulation and control. They are now seen as a warning about the corrupting effects of power without wisdom by the community that formerly revered their purported spiritual authority. In your family structure, the pregnancy that was supposed to be your trap has instead come to represent hope and fresh life. Other family members who previously struggled with infertility are now having healthy children. Relationships that were strained due to the influence of toxic family members are now getting better. As the stifling energy that has been harming the whole bloodline is finally released, even distant family members are reporting good improvements in their life. Every branch of your family tree is now blessed by the intended curse. Even many who previously questioned your abilities now acknowledge your spiritual authority. In fact, the resistance you encountered has been a kind of cosmic certification, demonstrating that your skills are real and strong enough to pose a danger to those who stand to gain from keeping others in spiritual darkness. Once dismissing your observations, religious leaders are now turning to you for advice. Clients are being referred to you by mental health specialists for problems that traditional treatment is unable to resolve. Even skeptics who take great satisfaction in their ability to reason are compelled to admit that something unusual has been going on in your life. Your ex-partner's tragic love tale has been turned into an example of the strength of genuine spiritual connection. The tie that was created between your spirits throughout this suffering is unbreakable and everlasting, even if you may never be together in the traditional sense. They now realize that being apart from you was the cost of letting someone else's darkness overshadow their own light, and that loving you was the most holy act of their lives. They thank you for being the impetus behind their spiritual awakening in their prayers and meditations. Understanding that being chosen means being targeted, but also being protected by forces that transform opposition into opportunity, attacks into awakenings, and enemies into unwitting allies in your soul's evolution. Despite the devastating cost of that awakening and the fact that you now stand in full knowledge of your spiritual inheritance. You didn't just survive the war, chosen one. It's over. You turn it into the exact thing that would free you. Your spiritual kingdom was unintentionally created by the envious family member who attempted to extinguish your light.